Hello everyone. Welcome to the WookieCast. Today we're here with the artist and author of the upcoming Star Wars Bestiary book, SC Ben, the author, and Iris, the illustrator. So, I'd love to get into what are both of your earliest Star Wars memories, starting with you, ST, because obviously the franchise, it's so wide.
It is. I full disclosure, I'm a convert. I came to this as an adult and I ended up watching all six at the time movies in one weekend and I liked them a lot, but I didn't really like fully buy in, I don't think until I always talk about my conversion moment was being at Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim in 2015 and being in the big, like it was the big dome amphitheater type situation. I can't remember what room that is, but the big room at the Anaheim Convention Center and just seeing everyone with their lightsabers lit up and they were playing the Star Wars music on the stage and just really, really seeing what this meant to so many people. Like that was the moment I went, okay, I get it, and was fully, fully bought in from that moment forward.
And for you, Iris?
Watching it on telly with my father. I think I don't even know how old I was, but I have two older brothers, and my father was very into sci-fi and stuff like that. And I was allowed to stay up at night, and I vividly remember seeing Yoda, and um, they there's something about the face of Yoda that always reminds me of my father. So it makes me very happy. So yeah, I the movies are always tied in with me with my youth. I watched them, and I mean, in the Netherlands we didn't have like I didn't know of any conventions that there were any conventions like that, and so my introduction to Star Wars was definitely through the movies and watching them all and loving them all, and mostly because of the creatures. That was my whole thing. That world was so rich and so full that I was so enthralled by everything I saw. Um, and little did I know that I was going to be asked to be put like a teeny tiny part of it. And that was how I came into this world of Star Wars.
Did you have a favorite film as a child? Out of all
Oh,
of the original ones, anyway.
not really. All three are amazing.
Fair answer.
I
So,
mean, can't separate them. I like them all. I like them all. Like it's for me, it's one story. It's like one can't live without the other. So yeah, that's asking about your favorite child. Don't do that. That's
I have
wrong.
a favorite. I loved Empire so much, and I literally
aw.
just got this one because it's not an iris, but it is a little cute wampa and a tauntaun. And I thought Empire was so beautiful and I loved all of the different almost completed stories within that one movie. I love that it was in Norway. I'm a big fan, obviously. I've been to Finns. I absolutely loved that film in particular, as well as the others.
So obviously for Star Wars Bestiary, it's technically marketed as Volume 1, so we might see another edition in the future, but it must have been really hard to decide what species to include. So how did you start on that process, ST?
So the editor, an amazing gal named Sammy Holland, she and I sat down and really created a spreadsheet of all of the creatures that we could come up with. I think there were around 400 of them. And there were all kinds of iterations in which we thought about combining them. There could have been air, there could have been sea, I mean, there were lots of ways to do it. But ultimately, when we talked with the publisher, when we talked with Lucasfilm, we decided to whittle it down to, I think it's around 130 that made this book as it is.
And the selection, was there an effort to make sure that you got things from different areas of media? So like you got some from movies, I saw some even from Young Jedi Adventures, for instance. Was there like an effort
Oh,
to get a spread?
Yeah, and I think we were also able to push a little bit for some of our personal favorites too. I Iris, do you remember did the Andorian chickens make it?
No,
Ah, we
sadly they didn't. No, no, there was
The
I,
Tipiups, I think. Yeah, Andorian
yeah, they didn't
chicken.
get in, sadly. But the thing is, as we were working on the book, new series were being released every single time. So it's like, oh, that one should, oh, I want that one. Oh, I really want that one. And then, you end up with 120, 130, 140,
40. It keeps
160.
stretching.
I think I actually drew more than 130 in the end. Um, and you can keep going, but at one point it's like, yeah, this is it. This is what we do. And because there were creatures on the list that just got like seconds in certain
Yeah,
series. It's like, for me it was difficult because they there wasn't a lot of reference for them, so it's like,
right.
what does that look like? So yeah, we had to make decisions, tough decisions. So
heard
um
about the chickens though. I'm so sorry.
yeah, I mean, we love our chickens.
We do.
We
So, okay,
started
so
out with,
Iris and I worked together on the Labyrinth Bestiary, and during the research for that, we realized that Jim Henson really, really loved chickens, which now, like, so much of the Muppets make sense to me. And so Iris, being amazing, she's like, I know, as our nod to Jim Henson, we're just gonna sprinkle chickens throughout this book. And she did. And so then I did a Labyrinth storybook and I threw in a chicken levy. I was like, let's see if Jareth can have a chicken levy. And that was my tribute to Iris, right? So then we're like, oh, let's try to get the chickens in this one. But no
I
You
chickens.
think
know, there are two
it's bird
mentions
like.
of the Tipiups or Andorian chickens in there still. Because I was working on the Wikipedia drafts
Oh,
for those. So there's mentions of them, just not images of them. They made it
okay.
in,
Well,
barely.
we'll take it. We're grateful. We will always try to work chickens, apparently, into everything we do together.
Chickens are cool. I mean,
They are.
chicken are cool. I mean, they're practically dinosaurs. Let's be real.
It's true.
Iris, you're saying that you drew probably more than 130 of these,
Oh yeah.
but what medium do you prefer to work in? So I'm
I
probably traditional art rather than digital,
Yeah,
mostly.
everything you see in the book is drawn traditionally. So I started out doing a lot of sketches. I think I sent in probably close to 1,200 or 1,500 sketches and pieces of art scans. And then colored everything traditionally as well, with watercolors and gouache and acrylics and pencils and everything. So it was a monster job, especially when you get feedback and you have to
Tweak
address
things.
certain things and tweak certain things. That means, yeah, start over, or
You can't
and
just
it's
edit it out like you
ah,
can a digital, for sure.
yeah, no, I for me it was, I couldn't do it digitally. I felt that it needed to be traditional for some reason, because we were, ever since, like, I before doing the Labyrinth Bestiary, I did a Dark Crystal Bestiary with another writer. Um, and we started that idea of these books being like field guides, journals, and it had to have that feel of it really being done by somebody on paper in that book. And we felt that we needed to, yeah, do that for this book as well, and make it into something that could be, yeah, tangible. So yeah, it was a bit of a monster job, because it was a lot. And then, want to give people something to choose from, and then you end up like with four different views of a creature, and then two get chosen to get in the book, and you're like, why not that one? I like that one. But I have no say in it. So
Uh, Kind of a question for both of you, or SC, because you wrote the text of it, but was that partially because artist Santeca was, I guess, in universe drawing these, so they looked like sketches because she's out in the field exploring, drawing these in her.
So that was our plan, was that artist would be she was a researcher but also an artist. And so she would take all of the notes. So she has a droid named Bait, B8T5. He is a safari droid, and he would be used as bait to lure the little creatures out. And then artists would sketch them, take any notes, like compile it all into this, essentially her field guide. And so to see Iris's sketches and just how like some of them are in color, some of them are not, like just to see how very genuine, like you could picture artists out in the field
Yeah,
making.
drawing them. Yeah.
It was so cool. And every time you would send them to me, I think I told you off air, but like I learned early on in this process to sit down before opening files from Iris, because you would trip, you would stumble, you would fall over. Like they're just so beautiful. And you obviously have seen these creatures in the film, but to see her interpretation of these creatures is such a love letter to Star Wars, to wildlife, to art, to the creators. Like it's just really beautiful to see what she has made. And I think you're all just going to love it.
I think it's funny that there's a couple entries where Bait is like, yeah, well, we didn't actually see this creature, but I don't want to, so that's okay.
I projected a little bit of my arachnophobia onto that poor little droid, and I think that's fair.
So for Iris, many of these species, as you mentioned earlier, did appear in other Star Wars media, but there wasn't always a lot of reference material. So for some, like Wampas, you might have a ton. But for some, such as the Young Jedi Adventure ones or Star Wars Resistance, there's only a couple scenes. So how did you go about like exploring what you could add and what you couldn't add into your own designs?
Obviously, I did have to keep very close to the reference provided by Lucasfilm, because it had to be that creature, that exact coloring, that exact thing. Um, so it was a challenge, and especially when you have these creatures from film, which were a lot of, like in the old movies, it was practical magic, it was real creatures, real puppets, real things. And then as you go into the newer movies, it's a lot of CGI, and then you have a lot of animation, and there's all it's a different style. So you have to bring those in the same world and the same feel. Um, so it was a tightrope to walk and just navigate how much of each. And then as I got closer, well, went deeper in that world, it became a little bit easier because you knew what was expected. Um, and also, I mean, I watched the movies, the series, everything. Just
Huh?
pausing. Just, oh yeah, yeah. Now it comes. I was looking up where certain creatures appeared in which segment of which animation, and then episodes, and I would just scroll to that exact time code and just pause and just sketch what I could see. And yeah, it was interesting.
Were
You
there
did
any
such
that
a
you
good
felt were like
job.
particularly easy or hard to do because of your memories or lack of experience, well, like lack of familiarity with the creatures?
I think I'm the most challenging for me were those from animation because they were so different in style. I mean, the fur is always suggested. It's like the kids animation series. Those are so different in you know, in style, in voice, and coloring, everything. So that was a challenge to get those into a same vibe, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it
To
does.
make them feel real, but still be exactly like they are in the series. So it was a challenge.
You did so great though. Like
It took a couple of months.
there were a couple of those Young Jedi Adventures creatures that
Yeah.
genuinely looked like they were a live action or anything from one of the films. Like you really, really nailed that realism, like the texture of them all. I could see her out there sketching these things even though I know what they look like on the screen, like completely different creatures, you have made them all in one universe so well.
I couldn't have done it without like there's so many artists who've worked on this world, on this all these creatures in the Star Wars universe. And there's so much to find online, and obviously there's Terrell Whitlatch's amazing book with her field guide. It's just a Bible.
Oh, yeah.
So by grabbing all these references and having them on my table and just, getting everywhere and just taking what I could use and then draw them in my style, um, that's what I ended up doing, because that felt like a tribute to them. So it's a tribute to the universe, but also the artist who made that universe come to life. Um, and as an artist myself, I feel like it's often forgotten. The artists are often forgotten who do the work and make that being, that creature that is going to live rent free in your head for ages, real, because without those artists, none of that could have ever happened. So you scour the internet, you look at books, you look at the movies, you look at the series and everything, and all that informed what the book, essentially.
Yeah, I guess in a case like this, the text is just as important as the art, like the art in it, because it's the spreads have just an equal amount of both for sure.
Well,
Uh,
and both of us, that Terrell's book was so impactful for both of us. We obviously both had it before we came to this project. We used it in our, in our understanding of Star Wars in general. And we both took a lot of care to try to incorporate as much of it as we could. So in terms of researching the creatures, um, there were canon facts that we knew were canon facts, and there were Terrell's facts that we wanted to bring back in. There were things we imagined these creatures would do. So the manuscript I actually turned into our editor was kind of a rainbow. I had a colored chart at the top, and black was canon. Black words were canon. I think purple words were things that I had taken from Terrell's book. Blue
I'm
words
not
were
familiar.
things,
Terrell's book is
the wildlife.
oh, the was it like a Legends not title or um
So, what year did that one come out? Do you know? Because basically it was
I don't know.
before
I'm
the
not familiar with that one. So
Let
okay,
me see
it
if
was
I can.
before the Disney
that
acquisition.
Legends then. Okay. Cool.
So everything before that, it's a different.
Yeah.
It came in a different color in my manuscript so that they could tell me what I could keep and what we couldn't keep. And so we used as much from her book as we could, and they actually let us keep, I think, most of the things in there. So we were really excited to bring all of that back into the canon.
What was your process for doing the hard research for all of those facts? I'm sure you probably have a collection of Star Wars resources to pull from with the help of Lucasfilm and everything to say, okay, well, this is exactly this many meters tall, probably.
Yeah, that part was tricky, and there was a lot of guessing. Some facts we were able to find through the internet. Some facts we were able to pull from different books. Some facts we just made up and guessed based on like what they kind of looked like in the films, and then Lucasfilm would adjust if our meters or centimeters were off. They would let us know.
So obviously you've mentioned that you've been working on this project for quite some time. So when did the development process for this book start? Because I'm sure it probably took quite a while from start to finish.
Oh dear. When did we start talking about that? Was this like 2 years ago or even more?
Wow.
Remember it was summer. I don't remember
Somewhere.
which
I
summer.
know, I know when I signed the contract and uh, I started in May of last year, and that was the moment I put the first pencil on paper. So May of last year, May
Yeah.
2023. Yeah. And then
No. Are you sure it
yeah,
wasn't 22? Was it 23?
no, yeah,
Okay.
that was, well, we that I was supposed to start earlier, but because of all the reference gathering took a little bit longer.
Got it.
And I started the first, like, the bantha was the first creature I drew. So that was the one I started with on in May. And I remember because I pretty much finished everything, sent in the last ones. Was it May? Am I wrong now? Or was it May this year? I mean, I worked on this for a year. I started in May and I finished in May, I think. Something around that. But I mean, we talked about this for during our work on Labyrinth. That's what I remember. It's like we were already working on. You started earlier because I could only start when we had the manuscript or a part of the manuscript, because that's when we knew which creatures we're gonna work on. So you were already long before me.
Well, it took us a long time to figure out how it was going to be
Yeah.
organized, how
Okay.
the
I mean, there
kind
were
of,
so many,
yeah. Oh my
so
God,
many
there
creatures.
are so many, and you desperately wanted to include everything because, you know, as a fan, this is the book I would have wanted to have. Iris and I are both huge animal people. We absolutely love wildlife. We have really fun experiences with numerous creatures in the natural world, in addition to our imaginative ones. So, if I could have had an encyclopedia as a fan, it would have been of all the creatures. And so trying to, I have it here. So I was looking, like trying to whittle it
You
down.
have it. I
Like,
don't even, I'm still waiting on it to get through customs.
oh,
Oh,
I wish I could send you mine. You did. Okay, so I picked it up. First of all, I started screaming. Like it was not a dignified process, me holding this book for the first time, because we had we had like a dummy one at a Comic-Con, but this was like the real one, and I opened it, and like I lost it, Iris. It's so beautiful. You did an amazing job. This is really.
I saw pictures of it like this weekend. It was at the
It was
Live
at New York
Ops.
Comic Con. Yeah.
Yeah, and I saw pictures of somebody who posted the book with all the other books, and I was like, I
It's
want it.
it's outstanding. Like
I
it's
mean,
truly,
it doesn't feel real until you have it in
no,
your hand.
it
Really,
doesn't.
to be honest.
It does.
I have a lot of sketchbooks full. Like I have a stack of artwork this big. Um, but you know, I sent it in and I put it in these big crates just to keep it safe, and I haven't looked at it yet. Um,
Well, someday I'm gonna come over and I'm gonna look at all of those
oh
beautiful
yeah,
pieces of art. I want to see your bait. He's so cute. I love him.
um, so there were obviously creatures probably in the initial manuscript that didn't quite make it. Are you allowed to share any of your favorites that almost made it but probably got cut?
Oh, I think that would be the chickens, apparently.
I didn't I didn't
We
see
love the
the
chickens.
I didn't see the ones that didn't make it in as much, because that process was before I got to do my work. Um, um, the ones that we we took out during my side of the work were the ones I was not too I wasn't grieving for them not to be included.
All right,
I
fair enough.
liked them, but they were very challenging because there just wasn't any information, like, or very little information about them. So it was just so much of a challenge to get them on paper. It's like, ah, geez, I'm almost done. Can we just skip, please?
It's a long time to
Please.
work on one project for sure. You said about a
Yeah,
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like I said, there's like 1,200, maybe more drawings. That's a lot of paper, I can
It's a
tell
lot.
you.
But my God, like, okay, this is when I struggle with the technology. We've had this conversation, so I might not be showing this well, but this is one of my favorites because you've got your little Ewok that I know
I
Iris is
wanted the
partial
Ewok
to
in
the
there.
Ewoks. But then you have her like her, her pencil sketches, her fall color drawings, like it's like the way this is just so natural. Like someone literally had gone out and sketched on their data pad, like it just blows me away how authentic this is to what I would imagine an earth scientist process would be too.
I will say something that Wikipedia has done is that we're trying to figure out when in universe this was published. We were like, oh, well, this mentions this episode, which took place in this year.
Yeah.
Something really interesting. Oh, it's after the defeat of this person, so it must be after this year. Very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know offhand what year it would have been. I can't remember if we put that in the front. I know that we had to be very mindful of the fact that the universe was
Yes.
constantly growing, and so we didn't want to be limited to a time that might box us out of getting other creatures included. But I do remember I was simultaneously working on a Bad Batch book, and I was watching because I love the Bad Batch. They're my boys. I love Hunter, but I was watching this and being like, oh, I wish we could have Batcher in this book, not realizing that that was one of the creatures that we would eventually get to add. And so that was exciting. And then I was working on an Ahsoka book at the same time. And I'm like, oh, I wish we could have the Howlers. And then we did, but I didn't know that at the time either. So it was just when you would get those little add ins coming, you would just be so excited that you got to put your new friends in the book.
What titles did those end up being? The Bad Batch and Ahsoka ones?
Novelizations.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I did notice that you included a lot of novel details that were pretty deep cuts, actually. So that was interesting. Were there any favorite Easter eggs from any of your favorite novels that you managed to squish in? Because I noticed I caught a few from some of my favorite novels.
Oh gosh, I can't think of them offhand. I'm so sorry. No, I just know that we have so much love for all of I mean, for every iteration of the Star Wars, but like the heart that these authors put into these different books, like it was just so exciting to get to throw in little nuggets and things from comics too. Like we would try to, if there was something that we could include from one of our favorites of those, we would, but I'm just blinking right now. I'm sorry.
That's all good. It's obviously really interesting to hear about your collaborative process because before the interview, we were talking about how um, just like different time zones and schedules can be. So what was that like? You said you always got really excited when you would get new artwork to show, and how is that final wrap-up process like?
Well, I learned on Labyrinth. You sit down when you see Iris's name anywhere, and then you open the file lest you spill your coffee all over the couch or something. Not that it happened, maybe it did. So I feel like we would sync up more end of your day, beginning of my day.
Yeah, usually I would. I mean, I'm a couple of hours ahead of you.
Yeah.
So I would send in artwork, and you'd probably wake up with it.
Yeah.
Um,
And it was really nice.
It was good morning. Here's some stuff I did.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was interesting, and it for me it was fun. Because I remember using the manuscript as well for details and how the creatures behave, or tiny details, and sometimes we'd be like, hey, but this happens here, and then it says that the color of the eyes are this, but actually in the reference is this, and we should maybe sync that up, and what is it, and so we kept a close eye on what we did. What ST would tell me, like, oh yeah, maybe this is what it needs to be, and then vice versa. And I enjoy that way of working because it feels more, we do this together. Without the text, there's no book. Without the art, there's no book. And this is what we've done together, um, to add to this world and to I mean, let's be honest, there needs to be another Bestiary Volume 2 creatures, because there's so many added now.
So many.
Anyway,
And it's
Well,
this
it is
like
called
like
Volume 1, so
ever evolving ecosystem too. Like they just keep giving us new shows
yep.
with new things. I remember watching The Acolyte and then seeing the butterflies. I don't think they made the book, but just being like, oh my gosh, I would love to know. I would
We
love
have
to
a
know
couple
so
of
much about them.
butterfly-like things, but I
That's true.
think,
Carvanoth from Resistance was one.
Yep.
yeah, they are in there.
Yeah. No, I remember going through like every once in a while I would see a piece of art and like review my text and go, "Oh, she did it this color. I have it this color. I better change what I've done." And just so much of being a writer or an artist is very solitary, and it was so nice to get to work with Iris again. Because we do have such a great rapport and because we do get to make it a collaboration that you don't feel so alone in creating, which is really nice.
Yeah,
If
and
you could both
sometimes
work
it's,
on a Star Wars project again together, what would it be?
phew,
I mean, I would work with Iris on anything ever. You know this. I just love her.
what would it be?
If you could
I want
pick
to
any
draw more
project, I
Ewoks.
guess.
I want to draw
Oh,
more Ewoks.
yes. Yes. I
Period.
think that would
Like,
be fun. We could do a Forest of Endor, an exploratory guide.
yeah, yeah. Geez, what could we do? Oh, we could do so much if only we'd be given like the time, the room, the freedom, and the money. That would be great.
All good things.
But definitely the time. I think the time is most important, because um with this book, it's a lot, and what you see in the book is just like, it's like an iceberg. It's like you see this, but underneath there's this, and there's only so many pages we can fill, or that the book can have. Otherwise it would be like this big. And I wish we could have included everything. I wish we could have included every story SD wrote, because they're magical
Aw.
and they're a true addition to the universe, and like diving deeper into this galaxy and its inhabitants. And but sadly, but again, there's maybe volume 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, as long as they keep, as, like I said, I was watching Ashoka, I was watching Mandalorian. I was like, we could have, you know,
Could have put that in.
we could have. So I remember after handing in the last artwork, the last creature, because I was keeping track of everything. It's like this huge folder of creatures. It's like, oh shit, so many still to do. And then that last one, and I handed everything in. It was done, and I watched an episode, and I was like, that would have been so cool. No.
Well, I remember I live in Disneyland. So I remember sending you a picture from Doc Ondor's in Galaxy's Edge of the Olipon. The little frog creature is in a he's in a container in Doc Ondor's and just asking like, "Hey, do you have this subaquatic visual of him?" And here he is, and just like all of these different angles you see at different points in the park of certain things that you just don't see maybe in the films or in whatever it is. And then you think about their environments that they're living in and like how fun it would be to go into depth on those stories and see
Yeah. I
Iris's
mean,
depiction of that art. I mean,
we,
Iris is
we
master of swamp creatures and things that are magical. And like I would love to see her Dagobah in greater detail. Like all of these things I would just love to see.
I mean, we could have easily filled like pages full of just one creature,
Oh yeah.
and just really diving into their habits, their food, their, mating habits or whatever. But decisions have to be made, and you know, you have to,
There's
you
always
can't
volume
always
2.
do everything.
I know. It's hard though, because you want to be so careful not to overstep what you're creating fact-wise, not art-wise.
Yeah.
My God, please overcreate the art. It's amazing. Give us more. But you don't ever want to go deeper than you are allowed to go. So I was very grateful for all the things I was allowed to add to these creatures' stories, but I would have loved to have added more.
Yeah, but that's the same thing for art, because
Yeah.
people know these creatures. Many of these creatures they've known for many years, so they know what they look like and how they, you know, that's so you there's very little wiggle room to deviate from what's already known, and that's fine, um, because you don't want to all of a sudden create a whole different blur. For instance, that thing is absolutely brilliant
It's kind
in
of
its
perfect.
they're so like, as you can see, that's one of my favorites, because it's like this weird thing on two legs and with Tyrannosaurus Rex out. It's like, that's brilliant.
Should
That's
have
just
included a small rainbow colored bantha on the credits page, just like there for people who get all the way to the end.
yeah.
For sure. So, for both of you, do you have any other upcoming projects that we should keep an eye on?
Yeah. For me
Huh? We do.
personally, I'm there's NDA stuff, but
Oh, yeah.
after finishing this book, I've decided to take a bit of a break, and actually work on my next book of my own world, called Fairies of the Fault Lines. Um, and that's the big thing that's coming up, hopefully. So in the next year, I'll be working on that and just elaborating on that. And maybe, you know, ST and me, we could do something again.
I
You
want to
never
work with
know.
you again so much. I was like, if I could just collaborate with an artist forever, I would collaborate with you.
Just throwing it out there in the universe, who
Put it
knows?
out there.
Put it out
Let's make
there.
it happen. Yeah, I had to literally check to see if a project had been announced. So, yes, I have one coming out in the spring with it's the Phantom Menace Visual Archive. So that is another one in the Visual Archive series we just did.
Similar to like the Return of the Jedi style
Yep.
type of book.
Yes, absolutely. So that's the next book in that series with Clayton and Kelly and Amy. We are all super excited to get that one out there. That one was really fun. And then I have a Marvel, an MCU cookbook that's coming out with Jen Fujikawa in the spring sometime. And then hopefully someday another project with Iris Compiet.
You never know.
You never know.
You never know.
And what platforms are best for people to reach out to you and keep up with your work on socials, I suppose?
All my stuff is just through my website. You can find stbende, stbende.com. I am really only active on Instagram and Twitter. Everything else is a little bit tricky for me, but I do my best.
Yeah, for me, is my own website, iriscompiet.art, or my Patreon page. I have a newsletter which I'm reviving. Instagram is a good source. Kara, Blue Sky, that kind of stuff. And it's all my name. It's just Iris Compiet, and you will find me there easily.
It was so lovely speaking with you both. And thank you to all of our watchers for WookieCast. And I hope that I'll get to speak to you someday about some other future project. So
I
thank
hope
you so
so
much.
much.
And we just have to say we are so grateful for Wookieepedia. Like you make
Oh, yeah.
creators' jobs
Oh,
so much easier. And I hope you know how much we appreciate all of the behind the scenes, really hard work that you do to compile all of the data and sift through everything. And just thank you for everything that you do, truly.
Yeah. Yeah, I second that, because you guys saved me sometimes when I was like, where does that creature get like on the screen time? I need to see it. I need to do it.
The episode list probably helped with
Yeah,
that.
that
Again,
saved my
your
butt
episode lists
many
are great.
times.
Mhm.